About what?
About the Democrats basically planning to...
Oh,
Okay,
my Christmas.
this is Oldecam.
And this is not a spring chick. And guess what? Today happens to be a day when we're going to be talking about...
It's going to be talking about what we have been warning people was going on, and nobody said, no one paid any serious attention until today. And the Democrats are out in force. The only way to save this nation is to stop the Republicans.
But wait, haven't we heard that before? That sounds like a retread to me.
It's a retread, but it's a retread, and what they have been saying and nobody has been listening. A month ago, a little over a month ago, Paul Ryan said this is not an election for the President of the United States because the election for the President is irrelevant. It is an election for 50 plus 1.
And the reason it's an election for 50 plus 1 is why?
Because the Democrats made the official announcement today that this nation needs to become a country governed by one party. And that means that it becomes a system where if you control the United States Senate, you can then decide who's the... Basically, the presidential election becomes irrelevant because they will decide who will be the leader of the country. And they're basically out trying to tell you all of the great things that have been done under one-party rule. And then there was a person on Bloomberg, which is about my age, he said, yeah, he said, the one thing that all of those great things that were done under one-party rule all had in common was, and they said, oh, because they were good for the nation. He said, no, they all resulted in massive government expenditures. Every one of them. They're, you know, that they have no, they said that there's not been anything with one-party rule done with bipartisan support since Ronald Reagan was president. So, they did things, and they did things under George Bush for the first 6 years of his presidency, not necessarily because they wanted to do things bipartisan. They did things for the simple reason that that we were in the middle of a war. What happened was, that little thing like the Twin Towers got leveled, and they flew in the Pentagon. Basically, you pissed off the people on the left, and the people on the left basically decided we're going to do things for the good of the country, not for the good of the party. So things that came about during that time, okay, the Americans with Disabilities Act, which the Democrats are wanting to get rid of because they simply said it doesn't, they can't include minority, they can't include people that like dogs and cats and horses and things in it, so they want to remove it. They want to make it so there is no, they don't want, okay, they don't want gay individuals to be listed under that thing, and in order to be able to make certain that they're treated as equals, they have to get rid of the Disabilities Act.
I love the reason for that. We want you to be treated as equals, so we're going to get rid of ADA.
Yeah, and that's something. You have to remember, okay, here is the big
no
thing.
Special privileges.
No.
Are they then going to do away with, what are they calling it, race biasing? It's like, where they counting like, we have this many African Americans, this many Asians, this many Latinos, this many Caucasians, right?
Well, because they can't put, we need to have this many gay in, so they're going to have to, they're going to ditch all of these laws because their basic constituency now is no longer Afro-Americans, and it's no longer others. It's basically, it's Latinos and gay, which don't get along, folks. So they're no longer with the qualifications. It's that everyone should be allowed. That's the whole trick, is that, well, if everyone is all, you have to allow everyone into college. You have to allow everyone into your business. You have to allow everyone into your organization. You don't need those other rules anymore. You have a new law that says you have to allow everyone regardless. The same thing, even though the insurance companies can't afford to pick up the cost, you have to cover everything. All pre-existing diseases that you never knew they had must be covered, which you can't pay for. That's the way it works. And under a two-party system, you have checks and balances. Our Constitution was written by people that our President said don't have any relevance to the people of this time and day. Because it was written by people that had an inherent fear of government, so they put a system of checks and balances in. The Democratic Party wants to remove the system of checks and balances because they said the Republicans are using it to stop the work of the people of this nation. They're using okay, we put it this way, the people in the middle and the independents are terrified of what the Democrats are saying today, totally terrified. because they don't want a country ran by the government, for the government, and of the government, of which certain people pay all the bills and other people get all the benefits. Because I heard one of the people on Bloomberg this morning said, I want to know what benefit I get out of having everything that I take, everything I have taken from me. He
That's
said,
a good question.
and then they said,
Oh.
it will be for the good of the collective. You know what that word means?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a different country.
They want to
And
make
every time I hear those words.
they want to remake the country into another. I heard British people this morning saying, you don't want, what everyone admires about the United States is the organized chaos they have and still get everything done. If you go to the system, you go to the British system, they want to go to a parliamentary system in which the Senate represents the House of Lords, but they want to go back to the House of Lords, in which the House of Lords cannot be removed from office, and they totally make all the rules. The judiciary has, they can override the judiciary by a simple one-vote majority in the House of Lords.
Mm-hmm.
That was changed, folks, because they put the House of Commons in charge in England over the House of Lords.
Mm-hmm.
And the House of Lords basically then lost all its strength, and but they still have checks and balances. The judiciary in England still has great power. But under what the Democrats want to be able to remove judges that don't agree with their philosophy, replace them. Basically, a judge elected for life is elected for life, not under the new one system government, because the judges elected for life will be removed unless they agree. I mean, an example today of one party rule is the Supreme Court ruled that states had the right to opt out of the health care program if they so chose.
Well, the only reason it supposedly might have worked was because they were all enrolled.
Yeah, and the president has decided everyone must be enrolled in the states, and if you don't enroll everyone in their state in the program, even though the Supreme Court says that you don't have to and you cannot be penalized for it, Obama decided to penalize all the states that won't agree with him this morning.
Oh, he did?
Oh yeah, he decided to penalize any state that does not opt into the program and increase its rolls will have its money taken away by the federal government, which they said basically
it's unconstitutional.
Basically, I heard this morning, they, one of them called basically, one of the people on one of the shows called, we told that son of a bitch that the Democrats were going to pull this, and he said, well, I've been promised.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Roberts had been told that they wouldn't do what they're getting ready to do. He actually believes what the Obama administration has to say. Mm-hmm. He believed it. And so he knew, well, it can come back up again on, okay, the rule of thumb is that you cannot hear anything on a tax until the taxes hurt someone. Well, Obama has just worked the whole system around now to where you're either going to pay the taxes, and you're going to either enroll all these people and pay the taxes we say, or you're not going to get any money from us. Mm-hmm. And which means the Supreme Court has now become totally irrelevant because Obama said up you to the Supreme Court. He got the ruling he wanted, and then he's taking advantage of it now to screw the entire country. And the Democrats, I mean, you talk about the people that are my age. I fought in that goddamn World War II to keep people like Barack Obama from doing this to our nation. He's a Democrat, folks. A Democrat. Mm-hmm. And they're unhappy because they see where we're headed. I mean, I've been telling you for a year, Obama has no intentions of leaving office. The problem comes is if the Democrats can't push this thing through in the Senate in order to maintain the fact that they can't be removed from office, Obama loses his presidency in 2 years. They will toss him out. And the thing about parliamentary systems, you either become a total dictatorship or you become a country, you become a system that when you lose a vote of confidence, they throw your ass out and a new government
some
comes
of those
in.
countries, like European countries, they do it really quickly.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we've been talking about, you talked about in Europe, it's like, oh yeah, they could do it next week or, in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, it can change that quickly. Here in the United States, we're a little bit,
We're slower. It's a 2-year process in our country to remove people that you don't like. But their plan, from what I understand this morning, is to make the Senate like the House of Lords used to be, where it's you know, as long as you're a member of the club, you stay there, and they have to allow new members in. But they said, here's the problem, is that everybody, including the people on the left, other than the people that support the president wholeheartedly, know that yesterday's Josh figures were a farce. That you, okay, I was making fun of it yesterday, it went up, but it isn't so much of a fun thing when you figure today. I found out this morning they called 50,000 people. Okay, can you tell me, you know, did you get a job in the last month? Yes. Okay, do you know how many people you know got jobs in the last month?
That was like a total farce.
Yeah. They surveyed 50,000 people and found out that 800,000+ people had been hired.
And actually, the late night comics had a field
Oh
day
God,
with that
this one, this is late night comics. They basically are, okay. Here.
Well, actually, I'd love to hear Saturday Night Live tonight.
Yeah. Here's the funny thing about the comics is that the people on the left that are comics tend to do more attacks on the system than do the people on the right.
Which is really kind of funny. Well, actually, the late night comics, I mean, they go after everybody.
Yeah, but
okay.
they said they don't go after Romney as much because to do something like that, you have to have a personality, and Romney has none. You know, going, oh, you can't do this. You know, maybe
because it's not as much entertainment. Because part of it is they're late night comics, so they are entertainment. So they like to give you a different.
There's nothing funny about going after somebody who has the sense of humor of Calvin Coolidge. I mean,
well, you know, how many times have they compared him to Al Gore?
Yeah, a lot of times they both.
Well, actually, Al Gore was always a little. They used to call him a little wooden.
Yeah,
he's a little bit wooden.
This is Al Gore, you know, with his wife.
Here's the funny part is, after he was no longer vice president, he loosened up.
Yeah, but then he started going out with younger chicks, I think. So.
Oh, is that what? Oh, yeah, after he got divorced.
But
that could have something to do with it.
Here's one of the late night comics last night. He said that everybody congratulates the President of the United States on the fact that we added over 800,000 new jobs in the month of September. It was the largest amount of jobs added in 30 years. He said, you know, the businesses, though, said they only added 100,000+ jobs. So, you know, the one guy said, God, I admire those businesses. They got 7 extra people to work without having to pay them.
I know, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, so they don't believe it. Okay, I know you one that did. Actually, I know you two that did. Bill O'Reilly and was it Lou Dobbs both believe that 800,000 jobs were created last month.
They do?
Yep. Oh.
I know, it happened to be in one of my pockets.
I know. Hey, look, I got something you're not supposed to have. You know, actually, it's a good cigar, folks. I got a cigar to play with. I had another. I don't know what I did with it. I think it's a cigar.
It happened to be in the pocket.
That's it. But no, but they're making fun of the fact. Okay, yesterday it was such a farce. They buried the lead and put up the. Okay, here's one you don't understand, most people. Is that there's a difference between the news directors and the newsmen. The newsmen tend to be more news people. The news directors tend to reflect one party's philosophy or another. The newsmen basically put it on yesterday that they're not going to even bother with 19 states in the next election because they've already awarded 138 electoral votes to Romney and only 19 to Obama. They said theoretically Romney only has to take a few big states and he's president of the United States.
Wow.
That's what they thought of that. They said it went too far, but the Democrats, knowing they went too far yesterday, then had to gamble with the one system rule today. Because this is one, they said, for an incumbent president, this was a Jimmy Carter week. I mean, he did everything you could do wrong this week. And then yesterday, triumphantly, we created 800,000 jobs. And then they discover how the jobs were created. They were on a telephone survey. Hey, Harvey, the president said to call up and ask you, how many jobs were created in your neighborhood? I don't know. He said, how many people are not coming home in the evening? I think there's about 150,000 people that are out getting drunk tonight. Those people are working now. God bless America. So that's how they did it. They just asked people, how many people are working now that weren't working last month? It's not a valid thing. They pointed out the fact that that it was 20,000 less people than Obama's people said it was going to be. They got hired by, and factory orders are down. Retail is down. Housing sales are down. But they hired 800,000 people. That's almost 700,000 in the service industry.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, but yeah, look at, we've been in stores, folks. There's not as many people working anymore. But one party rule, basically, this is a god-awful important election. You have a choice. Do we have a constitutional government with checks and balances, or do we have a one-party rule of which the party decides what the rules are? I mean, okay, this is for people in the entertainment community. You think that you're going to be allowed to make anything critical of this president? You think that you're going to be allowed, if you're a nightclub comic, to zing the President of the United States anymore, or the members of the Senate? God, it ain't going to happen. First thing the British government did was to make certain that you couldn't go after the politicians anymore. Mm-hmm. Even though they basically switched from a parliament, they kept the parliamentary system but took it over to the House of Commons. You do not go after people like you used to. It used to be, when a prime minister was caught fooling around with like Mandy Rice Davis or something, or doing things they shouldn't be doing with young ladies, or guys, or animals, and it was animals. If you reported it, with part of your job today, if you report it, it can get you thrown into a jail cell. Mm-hmm. There is a law that prohibits that. You cannot, for instance, in England, if you see a Prince of England basically fooling around with somebody, putting hands where they shouldn't be, and you report that in England, you violate the law. If you say anything derogatory about politicians, it's called hate speech. Mm-hmm. If you say anything derogatory about...
But they still got those Kate Middleton pictures out.
Not in England.
Oh, they put it out everywhere else except England?
Everywhere but England, because it's against the law. You're not even, they weren't even allowed to come into England, folks. It was, if they knew that you imported them in the country, you can go to jail for it. There is their laws. Canada's the same way. You cannot have a discussion in Canada that basically they determine everything as hate speech. Canada has a parliamentary government of which the ruling party gets thrown out about every 2 or 3 weeks or something. Japan has the same sort of government where they lose a vote of confidence, they throw the people out. We have a government basically in which was deliberately set up checks and balances. House every 2 years, Senate every 2 years, but you have a 6-year term, so you don't replace everybody at the same time. President every 4 years. Supreme Court justices are for life. A lot of federal appeals court judges have lifetime appointments. That's all going to cease under one-party rule. So if you choose to give up your democracy, then I'm simply going to put, this is one of the people on the left last night that basically, he's a black man and a civil rights leader, for Christ's sake. He said simply, he said that if you choose to voluntarily give up everything that we have worked for so long, then you are as stupid as this president and the Democratic Party think you are. And he's a liberal Democrat. Mm-hmm. So I guess you're going to hear more about this.
There's a lot more because this is an election year, so there's going to be a lot more comments about it.
So we're probably going to be doing more editorial type stuff than we are regular news stuff.
Well, because they're merging into both the same thing at this time of the year.
Yeah. So for the next 30 days, I think it is. You're going to. It is 30 days, isn't it? Yeah. You're going to be hearing lots of...
Oh, yeah, it is practically because of the date today.
It's the 6th of October, and the election would be Tuesday if it was... So we're 32 days away from the election. 32 days from deciding which way... You have... It's a defining choice. I mean, first of all, here's a trick is, if you love Barack Obama, you can elect Barack Obama. But give a balance, which is to give that Republicans the Senate. Then it becomes checks and balances. The President of the United States will either rule by executive order or deal with the Republicans. It's that way. If you elect, if you give Barack Obama the presidency, okay, here's the way it is too. If Obama does not get the presidency and you have a Democratic Congress, you still have your people there. If you elect a Republican Senate and Mitt Romney, you have a guy that has to work with other people in order to get things done, because if he doesn't, they'll throw his ass out into. I mean, he'll be gone real quickly. You know, they say it was 4 years. It's not 4 years anymore. It is now 2 years. The presidency will be changed every 2 years. No matter how it works, we're now in a 2-year cycle. Because the Republicans, if they take control, and Obama will, is that actually they will throw his ass out. And if you know, and then what happens is if the Republicans put some, you know, like the Republicans put Boneyard in, which is constitutional, in 2 years they'll throw them out. So it's like every 2 years you can have you can have a complete shakeup in our government. This is Barack Obama and the Democratic Party's legacy to this nation is that they took a system that wasn't broke and broke it. And now you're going to have this battle. The battle will last. It's going to be an election cycle that never ends now, like it is in Great Britain. Although they're not allowed to campaign except for 30 days before the election, they do not. It is a 365-day election campaign for everybody in England. So, but your choice. You're going to hear more about it as our coverage is going to be dictated by what.
By what happens in the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, because part of it is this type of coverage. It's all extremely topical, extremely timely as to what exactly is happening today. And here's part of it is like I always used to kid him. I'd say, oh, you know, with us you can find yesterday's news today.
Yeah.
Because you can't.
Yeah.
It's like a snapshot in time as to what was at that time popular or cultural in the news.
Yeah, because tomorrow you're not going to be hearing about the Democratic Party and one-party rule, because
although you still could be.
It could be, but no, because what happens is it was flown and it was a disaster because the people in the middle really didn't like it. They still intend to do it, but what happens is when political people say something that does not go over well,
they know about it really quickly.
They know about it quickly, and when you've got people that are my age that been, you know, that basically were soldiers in World War II or in Korea, basically got shot all to hell defending the system the way it was, and you've got a bunch of young people that want to change the system. You know, I mean, I axed out some people on my Facebook last night because, you know, one of the guys, I love this, they're talking about the unfairness, and I would have done far more damage than they'd have done. So I simply removed them from my Facebook thing and simply pointed out the fact that Oliver Wendell Holmes, the Supreme Court Justice, simply said that following the law is the law is the law. If you don't like the law, change the law, don't break the law. That was followed this morning by a person telling me about, you know, putting up about the intolerance of the Boy Scouts, that they allowed this gay kid in, and they didn't know he was, of course. He agreed to follow a set of rules. When he refused to obey those rules, they tossed him out of the Boy Scouts. So now they're making a thing about it. So,
but that's typical. I mean, whether they're gay or not, it's like those private organizations have a set of rules in the club, and you abide by the rules.
And if you don't, okay, I said simply that the time, if you're going to join it, you agree to the rules. If you don't like the rules, then spend your time changing the rules. Don't break the rules trying to make them look bad, because you just do nothing but piss people off. It's just like the Christmas stuff. They piss off over 50% of this country with their attitude towards Christmas. Remember, the largest constituency the Democratic Party has is the most religious groups in this nation. You piss those people off and they just will settle on their hands and not vote. And you cannot win elections without their vote. So I guess until next time, this is Oldecam.
And this is not a spring chick. And we're here yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And for more information,
you can go to www.moneybubble.net on the net, or our more commercial site, mbnnewsvideoweb.com.
And wherever you're watching, subscribe to us. Follow our daily newscast in 3D. And if you happen to be on Facebook, like us, follow us on Twitter, pin us on Pinterest. And thank you once again for over 250 million links.